Hi guys, so today's video is going to be the start of another reading vlog, specifically a science fiction themed reading vlog, so all of you know, and if you don't, you could probably just look at my shelves, but I primarily read fantasy. I sprinkle in a few other genres here and there, and for whatever reason, sci-fi, despite it usually being coupled with fantasy, is not a genre I typically pick up. So I wanted to try to have a whole vlog dedicated to reading a couple of sci-fi books. I tried The Martian recently, and ultimately just didn't really work out for me, but I know there's so much to sci-fi, and I really wanted to give a couple of other ones a shot. So the two that I'm going to be picking up, one is adult and one is young adult, and one of them is the sequel to a book I've already read. So the sequel would be Wild Card by Marie Lu, and then the adult sci-fi would be The Book of Kohli. I'll start by mentioning a little bit about The Book of Kohli. So obviously I haven't picked it up yet, but from what I know, it's supposed to be the story where it's post-apocalyptic and there's remnants of technology kind of littered about the world, and people are trying to use that technology but don't actually know how. And you also find that there's something to do with the plants. On the back of the book, it says that beyond the walls of the small village of Mythen Rood lies an unrecognizable landscape, a place where overgrown forests are filled with choker trees and deadly seeds that will kill you where you stand, and if they don't get you, one of the shunned men will. So really excited about this one. I have said every single time that I've mentioned wanting to pick this up that it reminds me a little bit, just in that description, as far as like the technology being out and about of Horizon Zero Dawn. So hoping that I really like it, because I absolutely love that video game. And speaking of video games, Wild Card, the setting for the first one, Warcross, is kind of a virtual reality video game setting, and we have a main character who kind of accidentally, she sort of kind of gets caught up in the biggest competition with this particular video game in the entire world, and now she's kind of been hired to hack into the system to try to catch another hacker. That's the setup for the first one, and everybody told me that Warcross is Marie Lu's weakest work, that I should start with Young Elites, or what is the other one called? There's another series that everybody's always recommending, and I was like, I'd rather start with the one that everybody seems to dislike, so that way it only goes up from there, because I read The Kingdom of Back and loved it, but it's so different from everything else that Marie Lu has put out. So I decided to pick up Warcross, and I ended up really liking it. I was really surprised given how much I've seen other people not seem to be in love with it. It's not that everybody hates it, it just seems like a lot of people don't love it. So I picked that one up, was pleasantly surprised. Now I want to jump into the sequel, so that's what I'm going to be reading for the next few days. I will update you. Probably won't take me too long. They're both relatively short. Where is Luna Bear? Luna? What are you doing? What are you doing? Are you hiding behind the curtain? That's very silly. There. Is that better? Maybe it's better. So I've finished both Wild Card and The Book of Kohli. I'm going to start by chatting about my thoughts with Wild Card. I once again was really pleasantly surprised. I really liked this one. I do want to mention some of the criticisms I've seen, because I definitely think they're very valid, and I don't disagree necessarily. I just didn't feel the same about those things. So this is a sequel. It's a duology, which means it's the last of the two, and I can't dive too much into specifics because that would be a spoiler, but there is a little bit of a shift where the first one is more focused in on our main character and then her relationships with quite a few other characters, and then the second one, I think it becomes far more thematic, and we kind of focus in a little bit on two other characters. I would say one specifically. And what I think was really interesting about this is that Marie Lu really made me care about that character and their relationship with some of the other characters. Sorry to be so vague here, but I genuinely really wanted to know more about this person. I want to know more about their story, and then the themes that were tied around this individual were really interesting. They're very sci-fi specific themes, like what does it mean to be a person, and the kind of idea of having too much power with technology and those sorts of things. So I really enjoyed that aspect of this. However, the story is first-person narration, and having this shift in the second book where it's a little bit more about a couple of other characters' stories here means that you're really not getting a whole lot of our main character. She's kind of just observing things. So a lot of people that I saw with their negative feelings for this one thought that she kind of just turned into this mouthpiece or this person that like would see things and react to things, but it's not really so much her and her agency or anything like that, which again, I don't disagree with necessarily, but it didn't bother me because I so enjoyed the themes and getting to see this other character a little bit more. I ultimately really liked this duology. I'm really excited because now I'm excited to jump into Marie Lu's other books that everybody seems to rave about and then hopefully like them a lot. I will say I almost kind of want to go into, I think it's called Sky Hunter, which is another sci-fi one. I think I might want to dive into that one next instead of her really, really popular ones because that one's newer and I haven't seen too many people talk about it, whereas I kind of have heard some things about the other series. So with the sci-fi one, Sky Hunter, the newer one, I can go into it kind of fresh and not knowing a whole lot about it. We'll see. I would love to know your thoughts on this. What do you think would be the best route to take as far as reading some of Marie Lu's other works? Either way, very pleasantly surprised. The themes in this one, I almost feel like I can't even dive into them too much. I know I mentioned them a little bit here, but there's a lot more to it. There's one line in particular, not a spoiler, but I tabbed it because I'm like, dang, for this line alone, I feel like this really hit. It says, "And that's when I realized that at the end, we'd all wish for the same thing, just a little more time." And it's kind of in reference to more time with other people, more time with loved ones, that in the end, that's what everybody craves and that's what everybody wants. And that's kind of in the middle of all of these more sci-fi type themes. And what I like about that line is it's such a true human emotion and feeling tied between all of these kind of virtual reality, video game, technology things. So definitely really two thumbs up for this one. I really enjoyed it. I am a little bummed to say I did not enjoy this book. I was so fascinated by the beginning of the book. So the whole concept here is that there's this post-apocalyptic society where I've mentioned it already and it was true that there's like tech lying around and the people who can get the technology to work for them are kind of the people in power. And then there's also some elements with the landscape where trees, apparently, from like what you gather here and there, that back in the day, trees were no longer able to survive in the way that Earth kind of has changed. It seems like a global warming type of situation where that affected plant life so much that plant life was no longer growing. And so humans found a way through genetic coding to make this still exist, to make plant life still exist. But as a result, trees almost became too aware and too capable where plants are actually able to move toward where they need to go. And as a result, sometimes they would crush animals or even people in their pursuit of sunlight and things like that. And then it kind of developed over time this craving for blood and meat. So they became carnivorous essentially. So you kind of have to stay in one spot and try to stay away from the trees. And I was thinking that we would get so much more of this because this is all so fascinating. And I feel like, the cover sort of presents that. It says on the back, it talks about these plants that are dangerous. And honestly, it was kind of just a world building detail. So I feel like my expectations going into this were not what it ended up being, which isn't always a bad thing. But I also didn't care for the main character. So the whole beginning chunk of the book, it's like you're in this small little town and not everything is as it seems. And it's first-person narration, so you're getting hints that the character is no longer in this first setting, and that's something, they've branched out, and they're going to find out more, and they're going to go out into the world and discover the truth, those kinds of things. So I kept waiting, like, what are we going to find out? What's going to happen? What is the truth? And then, I thought it was going to be like a combination of Horizon Zero Dawn and The Giver, and it was like we start in one location and then the rest of the book is just like this other part. And it was strange. It was a little strange for me. And I just felt like not a whole lot happened. And also I do want to add, some of the negative reviews for this that I've seen don't like the way that it's written, meaning there's a lot of grammatical errors and things like that. But similar to The Knife of Never Letting Go, it's very intentional, where it's supposed to be, because it's first person, how this character actually speaks. And they're illiterate, so it kind of has certain things spelled differently, or they say certain things differently. So I don't fault the book for that, and I think it's more immersive that way. However, I found the main character to be very impulsive and reckless and naive. And I think that part of the setup is he's supposed to start that way and then learn as he goes. But I just felt like he was always reacting to things, and things were strange. I just didn't really like him very much. I will say, though, if you are somebody who is a huge fan of snarky AI or funny AI, those sorts of things, I would highly recommend this one, because that aspect of this book is quite fun. That was one of my favorite things about it. The setting is incredible. I just feel like I wanted more from this setting, and instead I got something very different, and I'm a little bit bummed. So I won't be continuing with this series. But if it sounds interesting to you, and like I said, if you're a fan of the AI, the snarky, funny AI, then give it a go. You might end up really, really liking it. Let me know your sci-fi recommendations. I'm finding I really like science fiction books that have a very character-driven feel to them, but do still tap into some of those really incredible themes that I think sci-fi is known for. So whatever your sci-fi recommendations are, let me know. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.